Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into something absolutely fascinating, the history of abnormal psychology. I mean, think about it. The way we understand the human mind today, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. We are talking about a massive 2,500-year roller coaster. We're going to trace the wild ride of how humanity has explained, understood, and treated psychological disorders, full of brilliant insights, massive paradigm shifts, and honestly, some pretty intense misunderstandings along the way.
So, to really get a handle on where we are now, we've got to step back and ask, how did our ancestors explain abnormal behavior, say 2.5 millennia ago? If someone was acting completely out of the ordinary back then, what did their community actually think was going on? Well, looking at the history, it's definitely not a straight upward path of progress. Instead, it's more like a tug-of-war. You've basically got three main theories constantly battling it out for dominance throughout time: the supernatural approach, the biological or organic approach, and the psychological approach.
Okay, let's dive right into this timeline. It's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off in the ancient world 2,500 years ago, move through the Middle Ages from the 5th to 15th centuries, hit the Renaissance in the 14th to 17th centuries, push into the Age of Enlightenment in the 17th and 18th, and finally wrap up in the modern era. Get ready, because across these eras, you're going to see some massive pendulum swings in human empathy and scientific reasoning.
All right, first stop on our timeline. Section 1. Ancient supernatural beliefs.
So, for the longest time, if someone was exhibiting bizarre, unexplainable behavior, the go-to explanation was that it was driven by forces completely outside the human body. Ancient societies literally believed these behaviors were the work of magical forces, evil spirits, often called Bhut Pret, or even the devil, the shaitan. And you know, because the cause was supernatural, well, the cure had to be supernatural too, right? Communities leaned heavily on exorcism. They used counter magic and prayer to try and force the evil out. They'd call in a shaman, or a medicine man known as an oja, to act as a medium. The idea was that this shaman could figure out exactly which spirits were causing the trouble, and more importantly, what needed to be done to appease them. And honestly, the wildest part is that this ancient theory hasn't entirely vanished. You can still find these exact practices in various parts of the world today.
But, that wasn't the only idea out there. Let's shift gears to Section 2, early biological approaches. Now, over in the ancient Western world, you had these heavy hitters, Greek philosopher-physicians like Hippocrates, Socrates, and Plato. And they introduced this totally different idea, the organic approach. Instead of blaming spirits, they looked at the human body itself. They argued that disturbed behavior was basically a conflict between emotion and reason, that the brain and body just weren't functioning right. For instance, look at Galen's four humors. He believed the body was made up of four essential fluids: blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm. If those got out of whack, boom, your temperament changed and disorders popped up. But here's where it gets really incredible. Take a look at the Ayurvedic three doshas right next to it: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Roughly around the exact same time, ancient Indian texts like the Atharva Veda were outlining the exact same concept. You've got two completely different ancient cultures, thousands of miles apart, independently hitting on this groundbreaking conclusion that bodily fluid imbalances were the root cause of abnormal behavior. Just fascinating.
But human progress is rarely a straight line, is it? Which brings us to Section 3, the Middle Ages.
Yeah, during this period, we see a really tragic backward pendulum swing. Those early rational biological approaches from the Greeks and ancient Indians pretty much tossed out the window, replaced by a massive return to intense superstition and fear. Demonology came roaring back. People genuinely believed that those struggling with mental problems were outright evil, which directly led to widespread, devastating witch hunts. It was a really, really dark time. But it wasn't 100% devoid of empathy. In the early Middle Ages, there was this Christian spirit of charity in certain circles, spearheaded by figures like St. Augustine. He wrote super extensively about mental anguish, feelings, and internal conflict. Now sure, his lens was highly theological, but his deep dive into inner emotional turmoil? That actually laid the very early groundwork for the modern psychodynamic theories we use today.
Thankfully, that darkness did eventually give way. Let's move into Section 4, Science and Asylum Reform.
As we hit the Renaissance and push into the Age of Enlightenment, we are looking at a massive, massive turning point. Humanism makes a huge comeback. People get curious about human behavior again, and the scientific method really starts to take root. A huge catalyst here was Johann Weyer. He stepped up during the Renaissance and basically said, hey, psychological conflict and toxic interpersonal relationships, that's what's actually causing these disorders. He was bold enough to insist that the people society was burning as witches were literally just mentally disturbed individuals who desperately needed medical help, not theological punishment. I mean, what a revolutionary shift back toward medicine and actual empathy. And you can really see how this momentum just builds through the 17th and 18th centuries. First off, the scientific method officially knocks faith and dogma out of the top spot for understanding abnormal behavior. And this brand new scientific attitude sparked a massive wave of compassion. That brings us to step 2, the asylum reform movement. Across Europe and America, people actually started treating patients like human beings, and conditions improved drastically. Ultimately, that foundational shift in compassion led straight to step 3, deinstitutionalization, which is that modern push we see today to get people out of isolated institutions and into community-based care once they've recovered.
And that whole journey lands us right here, today. Section 5, the modern integrated approach.
So, what does this all mean? You might be wondering which historical theory actually won out in the end. Was it biology? Was it psychology? Well, the really cool truth is that modern psychology just took the best pieces from all of them and stitched them together. Today, we rely on the biopsychosocial approach. We know now that psychological disorders aren't just caused by one single thing. It's a complete convergence. You've got your biological factors, so brain processes and genetics. You've got psychological factors, like how a person thinks and processes feelings. And you've got social factors, meaning interpersonal dynamics, family life, and societal stress. It is a unified, triumphant model, proving that our physical bodies, our inner minds, and the society around us all play absolutely crucial roles in our mental health.
Which leaves us with a pretty thought-provoking question to end on. We've watched humanity go from exercising spirits to trying to balance bodily humors to locking people away in asylums, all to finally arrive at this modern biopsychosocial approach. But if history teaches us anything, it's that our understanding never stops evolving. So as our world rapidly changes today, how are future generations going to look back at us? Are they going to see our current model as the absolute pinnacle of science? Or is it just going to be another stepping stone in the long, crazy history of the human mind? Understanding this 2,500-year history isn't just about memorizing the past. It's absolutely crucial for keeping our minds open as we learn, adapt, and figure out how to better care for each other moving forward. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep asking those big questions.